Hi, welcome back to Follet, the video book. We're going to read the first part of chapter 7 today, and for the first time, I think in a long time, this particular selection is safe for everyone, everywhere, no matter what you're doing, to read or listen to, as the case may be. So, in honor of this anomaly, sit back and enjoy, and we'll work on chapter 7. There might be music and there might be pie. I don't know. Can't promise nothing, though. Okay. Follet held Lily until the promise of the sun began to lighten the sky. He opened himself to her and let her cling to him and share his dreams. He poured his healing dreams into her. As the night became day, Lily's violated visions were soothed and began to heal. How could it have come to this? The incubi had been with humans for thousands of years. Gilgamesh's father, Lilu, was an incubus. The Greeks considered an incubus a special priest who came in dreams and brought healing and prophecies. Even Meletus, one of the 7 wise men of the world, gained his wisdom by dreaming with Athena. Before the church discarded the elemental idea that sex is wedded to spirituality, it welcomed pilgrims courting dreams of healing through keeping a vigil. The Greeks had called it incubation, and now the incubi and their consorts were hunted down. As the church grew more and more powerful, it found itself more and more unable to resist the lures of simony, the abuse of power, a twisted perversion of the relationship between God and his people. Instead of sharing a special bond of trust, those in power maliciously victimized those people for responding to the two forces of life, their sexuality and their dreams. Freud understood that sexuality was elemental and the dreams were the guardians of sleep. Jung went further when he explained that the dreams communicated with people in a perfect language. Those evil-robed men that had stolen Lily's dreams were frauds. Their betrayal of love showed their hypocrisy. Jesus compared hypocrites to tombs that were glorious on the outside, but filled with dead bones. Dante put a picture to Jesus' words when he placed his hypocrites in the lowest circle of hell, condemned to walk for eternity, wearing leaden robes painted a shiny gold. And now the men in the hoods were walking the earth, their aim to pursue and harry and finally to decimate Follet and his kind. Follet knew that he would have to deal with this threat in its own time, but Lily was his immediate concern, so he comforted her and sailed with her on golden-winged ships that passed through her mind. He sang to her, talk about the moon floating in the sky, looking at a lily on the lake. Talk about a bird learning to fly, making all the music he can make. Happy talk. Keep happening. Keep talking happy talk. Talk about things you'd like to do. You've got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how can you have a dream come true? Follet left her, tucked into her covers with a soft kiss on her hair just before 5 a.m. He opened the back door and looked both ways, careful not to be observed. He hurried down the sidewalk and back to best rest. He got his stuff from his room and tossed it into the trunk of the caddy, hurried around to the driver's door, opened it, and slid into the driver's seat. He turned on the ignition, happy to hear the low rumble of the V8. Put it into reverse and headed out of town to the east in Missouri. He had work to do and a message to spread. He reached the bridge over the Missouri River at dawn, the blazing white gold disk of the sun rising from the river's waters and blinding him momentarily. Missouri, the show-me state. Well, we'd see about that. As he drove, Follet couldn't get the pictures of Lily out of his mind, but he knew that the mending that he had done on her fragile dreams had completed her and made her whole again, and he did not feel bad at all. He turned on the radio, and WINC was already aware of the previous night's encounter. The dream police, they live inside my head. The dream police, they come to me in my bed. The dream police, they're coming to arrest me. You know that talk is cheap, and those rumors aren't nice. And when I fall asleep, I don't think I'll survive the night, because they're waiting for me. They're looking for me every single night. The dream police, they live inside of my head. The dream police, they come to me in my bed. The dream police, they're coming to arrest me. Because they're waiting for me. They're looking for me every single night. The dream police, the dream police, the dream police, the dream police. And as Cheap Trick faded out, there was a public service announcement. Attention, attention, brothers and sisters. There have been reports of exorcisms in Kansas. Robed men in black and red violently assaulted an innocent dreamer, stealing what was hers. A depraved and corrupt attack explained away by saying that they were saving her. Be careful out there. Follet nodded and said amen. He drew to St. Joseph and kept heading east. About 40 miles, he saw a sign with an arrow pointing left to Hamilton, a quilter's destination, and another sign hanging just below J.C. Penney Home and Museum, 1 mile. Follet turned right on Route 13 and headed south. It was a beautiful morning, a perfect day for a drive. As he traveled south, he saw signs for Kansas City to the west. Hills and valleys, little creeks, beautiful country. As he continued south, he began to see signs for Branson. There's only one. And even before he saw signs for Springfield, the Queen City of the Ozarks, and the birthplace of Route 66, Follet began looking for a place to stretch his legs, fill up the caddy, and get some pie. He drove another 20 miles or so, absent-mindedly, read a sign by the side of the road, and almost drove into a ditch. He was laughing so hard that he had to pull over, easing to a stop right in front of a great blue sign with a bright white lettering, Humansville, city limits. Well, all righty then, Follet chuckled to himself. When he could breathe again without chortling, Follet put the caddy back into gear and drove slowly into town. He noticed the speed limit 20 miles an hour sign half hidden by the city limits sign and resolved to avoid a speeding ticket in a town so small that its only source of income might well be apprehending out-of-towners, headed for a weekend in Branson. There was the combination elementary and junior high school, a courthouse, a feed store, a five and dime, and yes, a little red-roofed restaurant, Uncle Joe's. Follet parked out front and walked around his car to the sidewalk where he stretched his arms over his head. There was not a soul on the street, but there was an open sign in the window of the restaurant. Follet opened the door and walked in. Howdy, said a smiling man standing behind the counter. Sit anywhere. Coffee? Yes, sir, thanks. Follet sat down on a red Naugahyde-topped and chrome-bordered counter stool. It was far enough from the counter for Follet to spin around and not hit his knees. He smiled as he rotated back to face the counter. The counterman bought Follet a cup of coffee with a twinkle in his eye when he saw Follet's childish twirling. Yep, I do that at least once a day. I try to test out all the stools at least once a week. Cream? Follet snickered, barely suppressing a snort. No thanks. I'd take them all out for a spin, too. What can I get you? I could sure go for a piece of pie. Well, we've got coconut custard pie with whipped cream, apple pie, and Boston cream pie. Follet grinned. I would love a piece of Boston cream pie. He wondered if he correctly remembered Margaret Mead's famous quote about Boston cream pie. A normal form of dessert, we shall not really succeed in discarding the straitjacket of our cultural beliefs about the final course if we fail to come to terms with the well-documented normal human capacity to enjoy both cake and pie. Now, that wasn't quite right. He chuckled to himself. The man brought Follet a generous slice of the pie. The top was covered in chocolate, but its sides were covered with almonds. Follet tried not to look quizzical. The counterman grinned, but its sides are coated with creme de pâtissier, overlain with toasted sliced almonds, and the top is chocolate fondant. Inside are 2 layers of French butter sponge cake filled with creme de pâtissier. It's a genuine Parker House chocolate cream pie. Follet nodded. The man continued, I attended a culinary school in Cambridge, Massachusetts, so I learned how to make a real original Boston cream pie. Follet put a forkful of the magnificent dessert into his mouth. It was luscious. After a minute, when he was able to speak, he asked, This is delectable, but what brought you from Boston to Humansville? Family. I came back to care for my folks and needed a job, so I opened this little place. My parents died a few years ago, and I realized that my dream was to cook what I wanted, when I wanted, and to share it with others. It was a good decision. Follet nodded, having put another bite into his mouth. I'll leave you to enjoy the pie. Let me know if you need anything. The chef walked back into the kitchen, and Follet heard water running and dishes clanking together being washed.